So I wanted to talk a little bit today about you and how you're perceiving, how you habitually perceive yourself. Because the stories we tell ourselves, like we are the stories we tell ourselves, we allow those decisions to restrict our experiences in life. And some of them are perfectly normal and healthy and safe and fine, but some of them are false. Some of them are false restrictions that you've put on yourself or false limitations. Can you think of any right now? Can you think of a way that you've said to yourself, oh, I'm not like that, or I'm not good at that, or I don't enjoy that, and have hence deprived yourself maybe of some opportunities or kept yourself playing a little small because you sort of go, oh, well, I'm shy. I don't do well with that. Or, I don't like big crowds, so I don't go to large events. Now, I'm shy and I don't like big crowds, but I don't always let those things make my decisions for me, right? And the word that you may have heard me use sometimes to help with this, and here's your first little bit of learning, is sometimes. I'm shy sometimes. I don't like crowds sometimes, right? You think, oh my God, I'm such a horrible person. I am a horrible person sometimes. And really just let yourself be with it. Let the sometimes soak it in. Like, I don't know, like you're breathing in a warm sea breeze or like you're getting into a warm tub. Like, yeah, just relax into it. Yes, I've been that way sometimes, right? I'm not good looking enough. Sometimes I'm not good looking enough. Sometimes I'm much too good looking. Sometimes I'm so fabulous I can hardly stand myself sometimes, right? Do you see the freedom in this, right? And particularly when it comes to stories about our past, I was thinking about, so go ahead and try it for yourself. Think of a word that you wouldn't like to be described at or a part of your personality that you don't like, and then type it out or write it down for yourself with the word sometimes after it, right? I'm bossy sometimes, right? I'm domineering sometimes when I think it's important, or maybe something you might feel pressure from other people. Like I'm hilarious sometimes. I'm perfect. I have to be perfect sometimes. Megan says, I'm emotional sometimes. Yeah, me too. Right. And feel how different that is from, you might have heard this message, especially growing up, of like, you're too emotional, too sensitive. Oh my God, why are you so sensitive? Don't be so sensitive. Like, just don't be that way. Get over it. And instead go, no, I'm not too emotional. I'm just emotional sometimes. So are you. And so are you. And so are you. And so are you. Right? I'm believable sometimes. I'm credible sometimes. I have integrity sometimes. I hope and aim that that's all the time, but it's not going to be all the time, right? And can we stand the pressure on ourselves? This is one of the things that I see holds people back from success sometimes. It's like, what if I'm great and then everybody needs me to be great all the time? I'm great sometimes. I'm great sometimes. I'm needy sometimes. I'm brilliant sometimes. Yes, this feels really different, doesn't it? Right. So I think that's something, and practice it with the other people you know too. Oh, my husband, he's so, inconsiderate sometimes. And so are you sometimes. Right? Deborah says, sometimes my hips look smaller than they are. Sometimes. And sometimes they look exactly right. Exactly. Okay, good. So part of where this started, I've been using this little sometimes trick for years, and I'm so happy to share it with you. And I hope that you'll make yourself a big sign that says sometimes, so that when you get trapped in a pit of self-loathing, or you're afraid that you're going to be overcome by self-aggrandizement, which occasionally happens to some of us, you can go, okay, that's right. Sometimes I'm beloved sometimes. But I was thinking today, I was thinking about it, how it's in the US, it's Memorial Day coming up, and which is a day of remembrance for those who have been lost in the wars, and a moment to remember and think about our brothers and sisters who have sacrificed. But But I was thinking about memory in a larger sense too, and thinking that, the problem with memory is that we only remember what we remember. The problem with memory is that we only remember the stories we tell ourselves about what we remember. And there's been study after study after study done on this. And the short example I've seen, or I'll share with you, is like, let's say you are sitting on your front porch and there's a purse snatching that happens across the street. Somebody runs up to somebody, steals their purse, and runs away. And the authorities come to investigate, and they question you, and you say, well, let's see, I was sitting here on my, and they say, what did you see? What happened? And you say, well, I was sitting here and I was thinking what a beautiful day it was, and I saw, Mrs. Nielski across the street with her big yellow bag, and somebody ran up to her and grabbed it off her and ran away. They say, well, what else do you remember? Well, I remember he was wearing a blue jacket. I remember, you'll name off the 3 other things that you remember. Now, and they say, great, this has been very helpful. We'd like you to come down to the station and tell this again, just for our records. Great. Well, the next time you tell this story, you're going to tell the same story you just told them. You're going to tell them the things you remember. Beautiful day, yellow bag, blue jacket, ran away. You're not going to remember the things you didn't say or that you didn't tell as part of the story. Right? So it may be that there was a dog barking next door, but because you didn't include that in your initial narrative, you're not going to remember that. It may be that there was somebody else crossing the other way on the street, maybe even an accomplice, but because you didn't clock that or say that the first time, you're not going to remember it again. But if they said, was there somebody going the other direction? Oh, yes, there was. And you might remember that there was even when there wasn't, just because you are sort of into being prompted. Right? Memory is extremely faulty. It's a very unreliable system. And so I was thinking about this thing about how the only things we remember are the things we remember, and we don't remember everything else, which is why you can talk to somebody who was at the same event you were, or who, was involved in the same project as you were, and you can tell your experience of doing it, and they'll be like, really? Oh my God, I had a totally different experience. And don't you remember this when Susan said that? And don't you remember this when Stephen did that? And you're like, no, I don't remember Susan and Stephen even being in the room. What? Right? Because you only remember what you remember, and they only remember what they remember. And there's another little part of this that I love talking about, which is the word sonder. Do you guys know this word? S-O-N-D-E-R, sonder. Sonder is a neologism. It is a new word that was created for what's it called? Like the Dictionary of Unfathomable Sorrow or something wonderful like that. I know I'm misremembering the name of it, but it's something like that. Anyway, sonder is a word that got created to describe the moment when you realize that you are merely a background player in everybody else's movie. You know what I'm saying? Right? So here you are starring in the movie of your life, right? Like we all are. And I don't know, maybe you're in the grocery store and you're thinking about the dinner party you're prepping for, and you've got all your you-ness happening. But you realize there's somebody, 3 people ahead of you in the checkout line where you're just the background player. You're just the person 3 people back. Your character doesn't even have a name in their movie. Or maybe you help them pick out a nice squash, and you're the squash picker outer person that they'll never see again. I think of that sometimes. I was thinking about the medical team at a hospital I was at a couple of years ago for a procedure, and there was 1 or 2 of them who just made a huge difference in my experience. Like, they were really special. They really kind of went above and beyond, and maybe that's just how they are. I don't know, but it made a huge difference to me. And I think, and I will 100% guarantee you, they do not remember me, right? I was just one of a million people they were dealing with that whole day or that whole week. But to me, they're like they have like guest starring roles in the movie of me. So we're all starring in our own movie. We're all bit players in everybody else's movie. And, we think mostly about ourselves and our impact on the world. And we forget about other people and the impact they might be having on the world and on us. And then we've got this faulty memory thing. about how we only remember the story of what we remember rather than actually remember it. There are some people who actually remember everything. Is that called eidetic memory? I can't remember. And then there's, then we get all this stuff with our families, right? I mean, there's this, I'm sure we all have those 2 or 3 stories that get told about us when we were kids. Oh, Samantha, when you were this way, you were always so da-da-da. Remember that Thanksgiving when you da-da-da. Remember that first time you were driving the car and you backed it into the mailbox, and now the story is you're a terrible driver. You were 15. It happened one time, the first time you got behind the wheel of a car, and now that's the story your whole life, is that you're a terrible driver. Or, oh, you didn't like cranberries one Thanksgiving, and all of a sudden now you're the picky eater in the family, right? Eidetic refers to photographic memory, I think. Oh, maybe that's remembering everything you read or see. Yeah, that might be true. But there are also people who remember like every experience. Like if you say, where were you June 30th, 1977? They will know. I think Mary Lou Henner is one of those people, actually. I did a show with Mary Lou Henner. Remember her from Taxi? She was lovely. I'm sure she wouldn't remember me. She might, actually. Everything you see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm concerned that we allow ourselves to get constrained by these words or occurrences of behaviors. And then we lock ourselves into it. Like, I'm this kind of person. I do this kind of a thing. I only do this. I always do that. He always does this. She's always like that. And I want you to take this time, this half hour that we're together, and see if we can't start to stretch that a little bit and stretch our understanding of ourselves a little bit, so that you can be a little gentler with yourself and others, a little kinder, a little gentler, a little more accurate, and allow yourself to maybe explore some new things, right? So let's do a little exercise. Hyperthymesia. Oh God, you guys are smart. I love hanging out with you. Write it down for yourself. I'm so smart sometimes. Yep. Okay, so right now, take a pen. I'm taking a Sharpie, and I'm writing down 3 words that I have heard to describe me. They can be complimentary, uncomplimentary, but just if somebody said, you're sometimes like these 3 words, you'd be like, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. Okay. Hey, Amy, great to see you. So just 3 words that you've heard describe you more than once or twice. Just go right off the top of your head. Don't second guess yourself. Now, one of the reasons we don't need to worry about things being positive or negative is because everything is positive and negative given the circumstance, right? I mean, it's wonderful to be funny until you're at a funeral, in which case it can also be wonderful to be funny, maybe in a different way. It's wonderful to be a rebel until there's peace in the land. And then what do you rebel against, right? It's wonderful to be, the life of the party until the party takes over your life. It's wonderful to be beautiful until you start to wonder if anybody really sees you, right? And even things that we think of as not very good. It's not good to be argumentative. Well, it is if you're a lawyer. It's not good to, and you're fighting for justice. It's not good to be, mouthy. You ever hear that when you're a kid? Don't get mouthy. But again, if you're a stand-up, mouthy is your job. You get paid well for mouthiness, right? So, right. So if you want, you can tell me your 3 words, or you can just keep them quietly to yourself. And you can play this game over and over again if you want to pick different words next time. So there, you've got your 3 words. And now I want you to leave a little space and then write down the opposite. Okay, so I wrote down funny. So for the opposite of funny, I'm going to write down dull. I wrote down weird. I was a weird kid for sure. I'm kind of a weird grown up. The opposite of weird, I guess I'm put normal. I put down smart. The opposite of smart is what my father would say is DUM dumb. DUM dumb. Julie says creative, authentic, sensitive. Yeah, what's the opposite of creative? Well, what is the opposite of creative for you? It doesn't matter to me what the actual definition, is opposite, but what is it for you? If you met somebody who was not creative, you would say they were very by the book, very limited, very practical, very toned down, very right, buttoned up. I don't know, there's a million different ways to be creative, so there's a million different ways to be uncreative. So I'm really only interested in what is the opposite for you, right? Or what are you like when you're feeling completely uncreative? Conformist. Ooh, that's a good one. Yes, maybe the opposite of creative is conformist. I'll vote for that. Good. Now, and we can take a little moment for these opposite words and go, yes, I've been those too. I'm dull sometimes. I'm normal a lot of the time. I'm dumb. DUM dumb sometimes. Yep. Right. So again, we're just allowing ourselves to be with this. I'm sure you've heard the expression, what you can't be with runs you. Right. If I had a horror of being normal, and so I made every decision to make sure that I was not being normal, well, now my fear of normal is running my life. Right. And frankly, that sounds just exhausting. So, can I wrap my arms around normal? Can I wrap my arms around dumb? Yeah. Oh my gosh, sometimes I'm so DUM dumb. Sometimes I'm so dumb and so smart all at the same time, right? Good, so we're just being with these words. We're just giving ourselves an experience of them. And now, in between these, I want you to write, what's the middle of the road, right? So what's in between these two? What's in between funny and dull? What's in between weird and normal? What's in between smart and dumb? Let's see. So, and again, this is just for you personally. It doesn't have to match everybody else's definition. Somewhere in between funny and dull. The word that comes to mind is witty. Like funny, but in kind of a dry, dull way. In between weird and normal. Maybe unusual or remarkable. I'm going to go with unusual. I like unusual. And then in between smart and dumb. What's in between smart and, curious. I don't know, but I'm interested to know, right? Oh, Claire says I wrote the opposite of creative is stingy or destructive. Ooh, I like it. I like it. So then what's in between creative and stingy? What's in between creative and destructive, right? Oh, that's very good. The opposite of creative is destructive. Yeah, well, that's, yeah, very good. So now, does anybody need a hand with this? I love playing this game. So I'll play this word game all day long. Some of you know, I spent about 15 years working with Sam Christensen on his image design process, which was this giant word game. It was 3 days of this kind of word game. Yeah, I'm struggling with all of these. Go ahead, tell me what they are, and we'll play with it. Or if you've already done it and you want to share, I'm always interested to know where you guys go with it, because you're the most interesting people I know. Veronica says the middle point between sensitive and callous for me was good boundaries. Yes. Yes. So in between create and conformist, authentic and phony, sensitive and oblivious. Okay, so in between creative and conformist is the phrase that comes to mind is making stuff. I don't know, I just make stuff. I don't know if it's creative or conformist, I just make stuff. Between authentic and phony, Well, again, it would have to do with like what flavor phony, right? But the first word that came to my mind was happy, right? Sometimes we think that people who are happy are phony, or people who are kind, right? And in between sensitive and oblivious is maybe a little suit of armor for your heart, right? A little bit of guarded, like Veronica was saying, good boundaries between sensitive and oblivious. Good boundaries. Great. Worried what everyone else thinks. Yeah. So that might be another one you want to write down. Concerned what everybody else thinks, completely unconcerned about what everybody else thinks. What's in the middle? I don't know, occasionally looking over the neighbor's yard. I don't know, like periodically checking in, something like that. Between smart and wrong. I love it that those are opposites. Like a person who's smart can never be wrong, and a person who's wrong can never be smart. Yes, in between smart and wrong is what came first to my mind is what my father would call an Uncle Wiggily's adventure, or a strawberry shortcut, which is when my father always felt like he never needed to use a map. So, and he always thought he knew the best back roads to everywhere, which sometimes he did, and sometimes he did not, or sometimes they had changed the roads in the 40 years since he had been there the last time. So I would say in between smart and wrong is an Uncle Wiggily's adventure. That would be it for me. And you can see, like, we're not trying to get to, the hard and fast, this is the way it always is, but quite the opposite. We're looking to crack these words open so we can go, oh yes, there's a whole life in here. There's a whole world of me that lives being pulled between being smart and wrong all the time. And what does that end up looking like? Where are the opportunities in there? Where can I lean into smart? Where can I lean into wrong? Where's the fun and the joy and the humanity? I'm often a melancholic, sad, sorrowful, depressed person. Well, let's see, what's the opposite of sad, sorrowful, melancholic, depressed is, slap happy, maybe. I've been that too, right? So melancholic sometimes, slap happy sometimes. In the middle, I don't know, extra glass of wine at dinner. Something like that. And now I've let myself go into phrases and into story and into images that are richer to me than single words, but you can keep it to single words if you want. There is no wrong way to do this. Let's see. Worried that people think I'm phony. Right, sure. So in between sincerity and phoniness is, again, the word that comes to my mind is polite, right? That's just what comes to me for me. If that's what it would be for my story. I put funny and serious, and in between would be adaptable. Right. Perfect, Lori. I love that. Edith says between kind and cruel. All right. So we have kindness here and cruelty here. To me, what's in the middle is attentive. Paying attention. Both of these things are possible only when you're paying attention to what other people want and need. And when you give it to them, you're kind, and when you withhold it from them, you're cruel, right? Again, that's just for me. And just says, so I'm delightfully versatile. Yes, you are, dear. Yes, you are. Uncle Wiggily's Great Adventure. Yep. Noticing that authentic has felt right and being phony felt wrong. And in some weather, it makes sense to have some more clothes on. That's right. Exactly. We don't have to share everything with everybody in order to be authentic. And just because we're not sharing everything with everybody doesn't mean we're phony, right? Yeah, sometimes it's appropriate to have a few more clothes on. I like it. Other times, strip down, baby, get nude. Fantastic. Well, I hope that Veronica says, I love this exercise. It's like a magic trick, how to expand out of a self-identifier that's putting artificial rails on your experience. Yeah, exactly. And particularly if there's those stories, like some of us grew up in stories where there's like, or in families where there's like one or two stories that get told about us all the time. And we just feel really hemmed in by that. And so I encourage you to play this game with yourself, play it with your teammates, play it with your family, play it with anybody who wants to play it with yourself. Use it as a little morning journaling exercise, and see if you can't continue to expand your definition of yourself, because you're so dynamic and so loving and so wonderful, and there's so much going on with you sometimes, that I want you to see it. I mean, that's what I said in the email. Like, you've never seen yourself from behind. You've never seen yourself from the side. You've never heard you laugh across the room and gone, well, who's that? Right? You don't know the impact you're having on people, mostly really, really positive. I remember one high school reunion that I went to, and believe me, I'm never going again. But I was just there feeling horrible, just swamped with memories of how horrible high school was. And what a giant dork I was. I was so strange and so unhappy in so many ways. And one of my classmates came up to me with his wife, and he said, oh, here, honey, I want you to meet Sam. She was one of the nice ones. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. In this swamp of horrible, I'll take nice. I was nice. I tried to be nice, right? Good. How to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Yes. Lori says overwhelmed and bored, and the middle is delightfully busy. Right, exactly. But stopping for lunch. Right? Very good. So yes, keep playing this game with yourself. Languages, and if you find words you don't like, go to the thesaurus. Look up other words in that space that maybe delight you a little bit more. You don't have to stick with a given word. You can play around with it. You might want to doodle these. You might want to do some 90-second process on these, how we do sometimes. And if you don't, stick around, because we'll probably do it next week. What do I want to say? We still have like 2 or 3 slots available for Crete in October. I'm taking women on a midlife visioning journey to Crete, Greece in October. You can go to barefootperfect.com. Here, there, Veronica just put the link up, barefootperfect.com. You can see all the details, and then there's an application to apply. You don't have to commit, you're just applying. I think it says we have 8 slots left, but that's not accurate. We have like 3. So if you're interested in coming, we would love to have you. You guys are the best people I know, and it's going to be an extraordinary trip. Extraordinary. So if you're looking for something a little bit life-changing, look at what we've done in half an hour. Can you imagine what we can do in a week in Greece? Come on now.